Everybody, welcome back to Throttle Grotto. Today I'm going to actually get the engine mounted in the car. Alright everybody, so today's job is to get the engine actually physically mounted on its own in the Rabbit. I already used the Tech 53 mounts on the transmission. Both the passenger side or driver side mount and the underneath mount are Tech 53. I already had those from the 18T, so those were easy. That helps locate the engine in the engine bay, at least left and right, and a little bit front and back, but I still have to build the passenger side mount. Now I have a couple of secret weapons for this project. One is this here. This is the passenger side engine mount and the rubber insert. The rubber insert I got off of Rock Auto, but the outer casing, Sal from S&P Automotive was cool enough to hook me up with one of these. So I sent him some dollars and he sent me the ring. So thank you so much for that. And then I also have these. So these are the companion to this, which go on the side. I got these from Jim Berlew, Zornig on Instagram, and I also got the side plate, which he had already cut to mount to the side of the engine. So that has made things quite a bit easier, but I've also modified his design a little bit to include, so the bracket will actually bolt physically to the engine in a total of 6 locations instead of 3. So I felt better about that just because it's an aluminum block, and I want to make sure that there's no issues with that whole corner of the engine tearing away. Since the engine in the newer cars is technically designed to be part of the crash structure, I wanted to make sure that that is like well supported on that back corner, which is where they do seem to break in newer cars. So that's today's job, is to get these two critters and the piece that I already have in the car all welded together and located so that the motor will support itself all on its own without the need for this engine bar. So that's the first and probably the easiest step of getting this engine running in this car. Since this mounts in the car this way, and I've already been under there a significant amount of time, basically hangs in the car just like this, I'm just going to tack, because this is going to have to come out when I weld the whole thing fully anyway. I'm going to tack this on, and then I'll be able to slip this whole mount back in the car with these tacked into position, and then I'm going to have to shift the whole engine and transmission over to meet up with this plate. Okay, so we've got a few tacks on there now, just enough to keep the metal located while we swing it back into the car. Alright, so one of the other things that I've had to do as part of my prep work for this is I've taken the old engine cover. This is the timing cover that goes on the passenger side. I've pared it down a little bit. The reason I did that is because this here is the tab that the alternator mount goes through. So this has the proper spacing for the alternator mount. I trimmed this back a little bit on the back side so that the mount that I got from Zornig can slide right underneath it. And then at some point I can cover this with plastic or like sheet aluminum or something so that I can make so I can actually have a timing belt cover. And then the top, obviously, here is what locates the upper plastic cover and protects the top of the gears. So I definitely will want to run, I'm definitely going to run this. I definitely want to protect that timing belt. So this is part of the plan to do that. And I'm continually removing material from this as I go because it seems to be in the way for most of what I'm doing, but it's getting better. So okay, so before I put all this back together, I'll show you guys this. This is the mount that goes on the side of the engine here that Jim sent me. So that attaches up here underneath the engine cover and down there below the engine cover. And then kind of skirts around the idler pulley there. And then at some point we'll also attach, can't see it, but right where my finger is, right behind the tensioner pulley here, there's another spot that needs to be drilled and tapped to hold this to the block. So once I pull the engine up or down enough to do that, that will happen. Alright, so now you can see with the timing cover in place, kind of how everything lines up. Alright, so we have our donut and our mount in place. So I don't know if you can see, kind of hard to get a good angle in here sometimes. So you can see the timing belt is really, really close to the end of that engine mount. So when I pull the engine out again, I might trim that away just a hair. Looks like I've got just enough. I might be able to slide the engine back towards the driver's side a little bit to give myself just a hair more clearance. But for now, I'm going to tack this. Just going to tack this mount on here so that it is, I can pull the whole thing out, and then I'll show you guys what the whole mount that I built looks like. Alright, so here is what I ended up with. This is a beastie piece of metal here. It's not super pretty because I'm not a great fabricator, but hopefully it is strong enough to do the job. The knock test says it's fine, and when I put it in, I'm going to say that's not going anywhere, so that should cover it. All joking aside, now we have, at some point I'm probably going to have to pull this out and redo it or reinforce it or something once I start driving it. But we have the donut mounted. I'm not going to show you this because I'm proud that I got it done, but I'm not proud of how it turned out, and I don't have the skills to make it better. So let's see here. This is the block here. We have this that bolts to the back of the block. This bolts to the side. This is the most forward piece. And then this is the hole I was telling you guys about earlier that needed to be re-drilled and tapped. I should probably hold it so I can show you. And then this is the lower one at the lower corner of the block. So all right, so it fits, and the engine is in there all by itself. Check it out. Oh, this is pretty awesome. I'll show you how it is all sitting in there now. I'll have to throw some additional light on there. So there is our mount. You can see that one arm. See that one arm right there that goes forward. And then our donut, which got scuffed up a little bit putting it in. Our big plate there, thanks to Jim. Thanks so much to Jim for that plate. That really was like the kind of the getting this thing started here. And then underneath here, this is how everything looks underneath the car. So there you can see the 3 bolts that it bolts to on the back of the engine, where it wraps around the corner, well, the corner, kind of the corner of the block, and ties into that lower timing belt cover. It is hanging in here under its own power, and I'm underneath it. Now the thing I've been absolutely dying to know is if these tubes are going to clear the hood, and I don't think they're going to. But I get to find out now that the engine is mounted in the car. So it looks like, let's see, it looks like the intake is going to be, might foul the hood a little bit, but The charge tube will not, which is awesome. Everything else looks like it's got really good clearance underneath here. So I am not sad in any way, shape, or form about that intake tube having to be changed, because that is a soft tube and it's super easy. So there you go. The first ever, no, probably not the first ever. The first in the country, no, it's probably not the first in the country either. The first Mark I in my garage to have the 1.4T ever. I'm going to take that title. So, a lot of good news today. The engine mount worked thanks to Jim, thanks to Sal at S&P Automotive. But it's good news. The car will accept the engine, and where I've put it in the engine compartment seems to work. I don't know about the oil pan clearance yet. I need to get this thing on the ground and see how much oil pan clearance I have. The good thing is it's a fairly flat oil pan. There's not a dip to it like the older pans used to have. So one of these days soon, I'll take this thing off the quick jacks and see how much oil pan clearance I have. But super happy with how this is turning out so far, because this is probably one of the easiest parts of the project. There's still a ton of aspects of this project that need to happen before this car will drive out of the garage. So if you like the build, give this video a like, throw a comment below. Tell me what you think. You like it, you hate it. Either way, it's okay. I'm happy because it actually fits in the car, and I can at least say I've mounted it. So next time I'll probably work on the front mount, because that's the last part of the 4-point triangulation of this engine, making sure everything fits. I also have some work to do on the Datsun. I've got some parts coming in from the Datsun that hopefully are going to be exciting. So a lot of things going on here in the shop, and my work schedule is also changing, so it is going to be a little tougher for me to get time in the shop to knock out big chunks of project like this. So I'm going to have to break it up into a lot smaller pieces. So that's all the time I have for today. Thanks for watching Throttle Grotto, and until next time, get out there and work on something.